Hey, what's up guys? Ash here. Welcome to Foundations Volume 2. We are going to be going over Masteries in all its forms. First, I'm going to show you guys some very useful websites. These two websites will give you a Mastery Effects list so that you can actually look at what the sets will do. And I'm also going to give you the where to find individual masteries in case you're trying to find one. We're also going to go over good early starting masteries if you're going through the storyline for the very first time. And we're going to go over creating new masteries because it may be confusing for new players at first. And then finally, we're going to be doing mastery board extracts and mastery board pasting. All right, so let's start with the Mastery Effects list. Now, both of these websites I'm going to be giving you guys, I will be sharing the link down in the description below for the video in case you need to find it. So this is the general guide for Mastery Set Effects. As it says, you can do a Control F or Control Find for a quick search. I highly recommend that. So an example, let's say you want to look up Bloodbath. Just type in Bloodbath and it's going to take you straight to Swordsman class, which combines Albus and Elisa. And you can see it highlights Bloodbath. It's going to give you all 4 masteries that you would need to create the mastery set for Bloodbath: Hemorrhage, Bloodshed, Blood Scent, and Bloodthirst. And it's also going to show you what it does. So during your turn, you're going to recover all AP when putting enemies in bleeding out of action. During off turn, AT decreases by 30 when putting enemies bleeding out of action. And if you're unsure of how you would put something out of action on your off turn, it could be counterattacking, could be forestallment. There's quite a few ways. Could be covers, pincer attacks, etc. Target must be in bleeding status for Bloodbath to trigger, and only works if the enemy was already bleeding before the attack hit. Can work multi-hit abilities. In example, Tornado Slash hits twice. If the first hit bleeds, then the second hit will recover your AP while on turn. This is a very good site. You can, of course, just scroll up and down as you want. A lot of this won't matter until you get to the advanced classes. Let's say Great Swordsman. Sword of Protection is extremely good. Weapon blocking, blade evasion, blade deflection, dazzling blade. And this is just nice to really have to go through and see what you might like, and or just to build out the mastery sets. If this is your first time going through, you won't know how to build out each set as you go through. So this is incredibly useful. Second, where to find individual masteries. Much like the first one, you can just do Control F, right? And let's say that you don't know where to find willpower for some reason. So early game Carter will have this on, but as a whole, this is the full list of units that drop willpower in this game. So Spoonus Telemancers, Hassan, Kaze, Julio, John, more Spoonus. A lot of Spoonus will have stuff related to willpower, obviously, Hellfire, and then Gyro. But this is just a good way to specifically find exactly what you want, whatever it happens to be. Keep in mind that this is not the mastery sets. These are the individual masteries that make up the sets that you would put into here. So, for Castlegate Breakthrough, this will be from, of course, White Tiger Swordsman, Ryuzaki, level 1 Great Swordsman, as soon as you get it, and White Tiger Executioners, and so on and so forth. And so these two websites will help immensely. There's a lot more on this encyclopedia page that you can go and take a look at, but primarily this is what really helps players in the beginning. Okay, so now let's go over good early starting masteries. I get this question a lot, like, what do you prefer to use during the storyline, etc. If you guys want a more detailed version, I had a storyline max difficulty playthrough. It's part of my list. You can search it in YouTube, and you can see that almost at the beginning of every episode I will go over the builds that I currently use. They may not be as useful as when I first did it. Some masteries have changed in location and drop, but as a whole, these are very good early starting masteries, and that doesn't mean you can use it from like level 3 or something like that, but they will be available to you very early on in the game. Some of them will be singular masteries, some of them will be mastery sets, but let's go ahead and hop into it. All right, so let's go ahead and swap Albus over to his original class. So for those of you that aren't sure, this is the class that you're going to start with Albus, which is just basic swordsman, and then he will go into 2 advanced classes, and this will apply for every character that you have, essentially. It's very simple, and the basic class is usually not that good. Sometimes it's not terrible. Swordsmanship training is not terrible. It's just a flat hit, crit, and crit damage increase. Can't really go wrong with it, but as you go through, and you see kind of the class masteries for, let's say, Great Swordsman, Field of Swordmaster is incredibly devastating if you're using it correctly. Magic Knight, same thing. Magic Sword, conversion of ESP and attack power into hit chance and crit damage, absolutely nuts. But we are focusing on the beginning of the game here. So I'm going to go ahead, and this is what you would have. Now, keep in mind you unlock these slots as you gain levels. You may not have this many slots. But again, I'm just showing incredibly good mastery or mastery sets to move on from here. So, Albus, without question, any board that has Bloodbath on, whether Swordsman, Great Swordsman, or Magic Knight, I would never look at this sideways. Bloodbath is one of the most powerful mastery sets in this game. AP recovery is insane if you've ever played XCOM or any game similar to XCOM. This is going to be bread and butter, and it is unbelievably good. It is also unbelievably good off turn too, so highly recommend this. Bloodthirst, Blood Scent, Hemorrhage, and Bloodshed. Again, if you're not sure, you can always look up the individual masteries and where to find them. But all of these will be available to you pretty quickly. Not very beginning of the game, but pretty darn close. I'm also going to recommend Second Wind defensively. Second Wind comes entirely from Kaze as soon as you meet him, which is pretty early in the game. You can, of course, if you have gotten to this point in the story, you can personally check. So we're just going to go over to the Troubleshooter list, Kaze, and so he shows up in the 16 storyline, 18 storyline, 19 violent, and you will see him all over the place. But literally, his only mastery set is Second Wind, and the ultimate takeaway from Second Wind is that it is massive damage reduction, absolutely massive damage reduction, and is incredibly powerful throughout the entire game, even on kind of end game builds you might see Second Wind on, and it's really that good defensively. And then finally, I would recommend Forestallment for Albus. Forestallment is just a responsive for any adjacent enemy. Albus does kind of tank for you until you get Irene. You're just gonna have Albus and Shion for the most part, and Forestallment takes no action time. It's just a free responsive and can trigger bleeding, which can then trigger Bloodbath off turn, which will decrease your AT by 30. Very good, very insane. All of these are just really good for the beginning of the game. Shion, so Elementalist. This plays as essentially like a mage, black mage, familiar with the Final Fantasy series. He's just a mage DPS. He is very squishy, right? So my recommendation is actually Magic Training. The reason why Magic Training is so good is the ESP hit chance. You really don't want to be missing with Shion. You don't want to be missing with anybody. But for example, at least Albus, if you miss and you're running responsibility, then at least you'll get your AT back and he'll get up again quicker, right? But you really don't want to be missing on Shion, because in the beginning of the game, I don't think you get Lightning Ball. I think you have to use Thunderbolt, and Thunderbolt has a massive cast delay. And if you watch Foundations Volume 1, you'll know that action time is everything, and cast delay is basically adding 40 AT on top of whatever his speed might already be. So see it at 89. If his usual action time is 58 at 89 speed, you can add another 40 to that from Thunderbolt for a total of 98, which is a very, very long time. However, once you get Lightning Ball, even at kind of max cast delay, and you will get things that can reduce cast delay eventually, but even at max cast delay, 12 is not the end of the world, not compared to 40 from Thunderbolt, right? So Magic Training, absolutely nuts. it's also going to give you body training, health increase, willpower, ESP power increase. And so as a kind of mage DPS, you do want him just murdering. You want him to be the damage dealer. And it also has synergy with body training, willpower into nerve stimulus. It's another one that I recommend. And I kind of recommend this for 2 reasons. One, extreme speed combined with the extra effect from nerve stimulus will give you a 20 speed increase. And speed is king in the beginning of the game before you start getting into cast delay reduction and all that. So magic training and nerve stimulus are basically just going to shore up his speed, his ESP damage, and his ESP hit chance. And they're just both very good, and they synergize with each other together. But nerve stimulus will also give you SP increase, both from electric pulse and then of course the mastery set from nerve stimulus, which means he'll get overcharged more often, which means he'll be able to blast, his ultimate whenever possible. And then finally, as a singular ability, Soul Drain is amazing. In the beginning of the game, Vigor is a major issue. Shion does not have to deal with it if he has Soul Drain equipped. It is unbelievably, insanely good, and the game teaches you to use Vigor Restore, and you will probably need to use it on Albus, but you will never need to use it on Shion, and so I definitely add this in as my 3rd recommendation for Shion. For Irene, so you're going to have the fighter class, and the fighter class, she is going to primarily, she should be your main tank. I think for more veteran players, you will find Irene off to the side utilizing Hero, and so your main tank will actually be Albus, which is very strange. But if you're a newer player, you might not want to mess with Hero quite yet, and so she should play as your main tank. I'm going to recommend Fight King. Fight King is unbelievably good, especially if your Irene is fighting with your team as the main tank. The hardest part of combining Fight King will be Trained Attack, which comes from Cao Hong, which is not too far into the game. I think he's in, correction, I know he's in 15 Violent. That's just an easy sell. Or, let's double check that. I want to give you guys kind of wrong information here. Yeah, so he is in 15 Violent. 33% chance of appearance for 17 story. Would not mess with that. So you'll want to do 15 Violent to get Trained Attack. And then the other 3 should all come pretty naturally. What is that? Muscle Training, you'll see that everywhere. Clean Hit will come up pretty soon, and so will Heavy Strike. Defensively, I will recommend Gatekeeper. Gatekeeper, hardest thing would be Sentinel from Ralph, so you'll get Close Combatant and Shedding from Fighter itself. In case you're curious, a lot of the class masteries you can see in the researchable class mastery. Once you're class level 1, 4, 8, 12, and 16, you will unlock each of these researches. So Shedding at level 8 and Close Combatant at level 4, very easily obtained. And Gatekeeper is one of the higher block sets in the game. It will primarily focus on the amount of enemies that you're currently seeing, right? So, it just feeds into Sentinel, gives you 5% block per enemy in sight. Extremely good for the kind of beginning into middle game. Sentinel comes from Ralph, and Ralph, I would like to say, starts around level 20 or so. See, Spoonus. Yeah, he's a Spoonus. It's been a very long time since I've touched this stuff. 19 Violent. 50% chance of appearance. You also may see him in the storyline here, but once you can get this, it's not bad. And then finally, of course, Irene also, similar to Albus, does very, very good with Forestallment. If anything, she does even better, especially if you're running Hero. With Hero, putting a target out of action decreases your AT by 30, so if she happens to be off turn, some melee enemy comes up, gets hit in the face, and immediately gives her a return, or really speeds it up. So as a whole, very good. Honorable mention to Solitary Fighter. This is probably Fighter's best mastery set. Unfortunately, the hardest part of this, I think, is Lone Wolf. This used to drop from Ryo Ryuzaki and does not anymore. So I have questionable thoughts at how fast you can get this in the beginning of the game. And then finally, we're going to go into Anne, and that's going to be the last one that I do. And that's primarily because I think once you get Hazing, you kind of understand the game. These are the kind of the 4 core characters. And if you're a veteran player, you'll run Albus main tank, Shion as mage DPS, Irene as a side off tank taking on a different flank, and then Anne as your primary healer. And that will be generally what a veteran player does. But a new player will have Albus as a hybrid off tank, off tank / DPS, Shion as black mage DPS, Irene as main tank, and then Anne as healer. And as long as you have these 4 together, you really will not have any issues, especially if you start using their synergy and bonds, and I think that might be Foundations Volume 3, but that's for another time. However, by the time you get Hazing, the game will definitely make sense. And so I really consider that these are the original 4, and understanding these 4 is probably the most important part. So, Anne's starting class is Shaman. And Shaman is intended to be a healer / support DPS. If she's got nothing to do, she doesn't. It's something is better than nothing. So I'm going to recommend March. March is particularly good on Anne because you always want her to be around cover in some form or way, and so the bounding leap and bounding stride allow her to keep the exact positioning that you want her to be, while also not being too far from healing your teammates. On top of that, if you end your turn after you move, you will gain patience. Patience is going to increase her block by 30. That is massive for the beginning of the game. Exceptionally good, easy masteries to put together. Patience, willpower, leap, and stride. And then Soul Guardian. Soul Guardian is essentially going to give Anne infinite vigor, about the same as Soul Drain, just the reverse version of it, and that's mostly from Soul Guide. Anne will get vigor recovery every time a target goes out of action, and then bonus vigor recovery with the mastery set. Also, Soul Healer is unbelievably good for Albus and Irene. More Albus than Irene. But as she heals, the target will recover vigor, and then of course that compounds again into 20 vigor per heal. Anne is supposed to play as a support. Her intended role is white mage / healer. So even if you're a shaman going into white mage, this is just unbelievably good. Also, I will recommend, because I did this and it was very good for my playthrough, Shining Light and Bright Light. Both of them do one thing, which is give you a 100% blind on hit. So the very simple version of this is that it's going to give your Starlight Arrow, which is her basic attack, 100% chance to blind. And so when enemies make it to the back row, even though Anne may not kill them, she will blind them, and blind is a horrific negative 50% hit chance. In the beginning of the game, this is beyond devastating, and most targets will never hit you if they're blinded. So very good. I do recommend it. It does have easy masteries. I think White Heat and Shooting Star will come from the first Earthmancer. What is that called? Is it Telemancer? It might be Telemancer. What are you? You're electric. Hold on, guys. Assaulter, Thrower, Aeromancer, Striker. Why don't I just do it the old-fashioned way? Geomancer. I should have known that, but again, it's probably been a year since... it's been a long time. But you can see Shooting Star, White Heat, right? Very easy to grab, and just very good. Now, finally, I would like to go over the most powerful generic masteries, and this will make any character good, and that's because of just the basic concept. Shikuchi is unbelievably good, and that's because of the speed increase. Speed is everything in the beginning of the game. Move distance definitely helps, especially for objectives, but the extreme speed combined into the Shikuchi set, you really can't go wrong with 20 speed, and that was part of the focus of Shion. You could certainly do nerve stimulus with Shikuchi, and that would give him some incredible amount of speed and move distance. Later on in the game, speed is usurped by items, and so you don't really need Shikuchi, but on certain characters, this is exceptional. I will highly recommend this for Anne. Anne's every class has very limited speed, and so this plays very well for her, as well as defensive choice. This is block. Block is incredible. This is particularly good for Albus. Irene will have Gatekeeper and Hero, or both. You could also just put defensive choice on Irene till you get Gatekeeper. But on Albus in particular, this is devastating. If he blocks a hit with Second Wind, he will take probably 2-digit damage, 12, 13, or less, depending on the difficulty that you're playing on. But these two generic mastery sets are unbelievably good. Highly recommend. Very hard to go wrong. Alright, so in the middle of this video, I realized that even though I've shown you guys kind of where to get these masteries, what I didn't explain is information gain, and this probably confuses a lot of players. We're going to go over it very quickly. So I mentioned with Albus, Second Wind is extremely good, and it can be found completely from Kaze, right? And so Second Wind is made up of Wind Road, Haze, Wind Wall, and Headwind. And so if you look over here, Wind Road has a 4.65% chance of acquiring, Headwind has 3.25%, Haze is 3.72, and Windwall has 3.72. And those sound very low, almost like horrible, horrible Diablo numbers, right? What's nice about this game is that once you've maxed the information gauge, you will automatically get any masteries related to the character to include a full mastery set. So, for whatever reason, if by information level 4 you have not gotten any of the ones related to Second Wind, by the time you get full information, it will unlock everything for Second Wind for you. So, how do you get information? So you can go to the help section here and go into the information gain formula, and this is very good, and I think they added this not too long ago. But the base value, putting a target out of action by yourself will grant you 1 information. And then there's bonus conditions. So 1, putting a target out of action by critical strike increases information by 100%. Overkill increases information by 100%. Death blow increases information gained by 100%. Challenge mode, et cetera, et cetera. And so if you're curious, I believe death blow is essentially from full health to 0. Overkill, I think, is like 30% damage over what their health pool is. So let's say they have 1,000. If you do 333 over the amount of the kill, you'll get overkill, or they might be flipped, I forget. But basically, do tons of damage and you'll get lots of information. That's the short version. Also, playing on challenge mode, although this will increase the difficulty of the map, I assure you, but it will increase your information gain. You can also do jurisdiction bonuses, and so the jurisdiction gains, if you have 1 jurisdiction, you get 20%, 2 jurisdiction, 50%, etc. As well as special items like the pen camera, and they have a nice little example here. If you were to add in critical hit, overkill, death blow, challenge mode, jurisdiction bonus, special equipment, you'd get information gain of 60, and that's a lot. I don't know if that would be like literally 1 and done, or maybe 2 and done, but this would be hard to do all of these. You would never want to normally bring pen camera in unless you were specifically aiming for information gain, obviously. And this is not bad to use, but as a whole, you will commonly get critical hits and, let's say, overkill, but maybe not death blow, maybe not challenge mode, etc. But this will give you a rough idea of how to get the most information you possibly can. And again, once you fill it up, you will unlock everything that is there. So you can see, I don't have full information gain on Cao Hong. You can see he's at information level 6. Once you max it out at 7, you will get everything that he has, such as Revenge, and anything else that you've missed so far, such as Second Heart. I believe this might be the earliest you can get Second Heart in the game too. Yes, it is. or maybe there might be like some story mission or something. But as a whole, let's go to all. Yeah, Greyasha. No, it's 47. Ash Monitor Cold. Yeah. So Kong would be the earliest that you could get Second Heart. So it's, as a general rule of thumb, you do really want to max out information. I kind of, just blasted through the storyline, and this is what I ended up with, which is not bad considering. But as a whole, you definitely want to max out information where you can. Okay, so creating new masteries, right? Quite often in the beginning of the game, you're going to realize that you just don't have enough to make whatever it is that happens to be. Let's say like extreme speed, right? I've got 86 over here, as you can see, with 2 training points. But if you're just starting out, I do recommend the Mastery Research button over here on the far left. And so you can see that, let's just take All-Rounder here, which is a Superstar class mastery. It takes 2 training points, and I have 1 count of it, right? And so you can see that it is using a research material, so you will be forced to use a stretching. I have 28 of those, right? So let's go ahead and do, you have to be able to make 4 required points out of a basic support or defense slot. So you can add, I'm going to add cover to cover. Now remember, it started at 1 out of 4, and so that added to 3 out of 4, and that's based on the training point. And then let's say body training. We're going to add that. And so now what it's going to do is it's going to take 1 stretching, 1 body training, and 1 cover to cover in order to create an all-rounder mastery. So now you can see down here that I have 2. The normal way, once you guys really get going, will just be to click auto select. And what this will usually do is take your highest counts of masteries. So obviously I have a ton of body trainings. This is the #1 mastery found in the game. And then clever footstep, right? And so you just hit auto select research, and it's just going to automatically research it for you. And so once you then have that, you'll have those to put onto your character as you see fit. So I should now have 3 of the all-rounder superstars, as you can see right there. So that's the easy way of kind of just creating your masteries if you've if you found them but you haven't gotten any, so to speak, or you just need more. All right, and finally, mastery board extracts and mastery board pasting. So you'll notice in my class spotlights, especially in the body descriptions, I will have mastery board extracts. What are those? Essentially, that will be a alphanumeric set, kind of like a key code, in order to paste in something. So for example, let's just say I put on Bloodbath, right? And you can see that. And so Bloodbath is here. You see all 4 mastery sets were added on, right? And so if I wanted to copy or create that as something you guys could paste in, I would then go up to this up here. And so the extract, you can click that. And so this you would just copy, and this will be on a lot of my class spotlights. I'm going to go ahead and clear all masteries, right? And so when we go back to the mastery board, I am going to paste, and you can see that's the mastery board code that I extracted. This is for the character, and this is what it's going to put in. And so when I accept and I proceed, you can see it adds in Bloodbath, right? And so on a lot of my class spotlights, you'll see a mastery board extract that you can use to quickly paste in my boards. Now, if you're missing masteries, it will let you know, and it will not slot those in. So for example, I don't know if there's anything that I particularly need. I was trying to find something I had 0 of. Oh, here we go. So you can see Optimism is grayed out here. Any board that I would have that is an extract and you guys go to paste in, this will not load in if it were Optimism, just as an example. Anyway, I think that's it for today, guys. That is quite a bit, but mastery board building is a large part of Troubleshooter. I would say somewhere around 50% of Troubleshooter. 30% of it's probably playing, and 20% of it is, I don't know, crafting and running around or something like that. But mastery board is a big deal, and hopefully this is very thorough. As always, guys, if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitch, and until next time.